So I'm Piotr, and I will start with the architecture section and the basics of Vue Storefront, like how it's designed and how it works. And then Filip will take you through the more code internals and how to create the first module and the first theme. In the meantime, you can join our Slack on Vue.io, and there is also special label, a special milestone on our GitHub repository, Divant LTD/Vue-Storefront, where you can find the issues we pre-selected for hackathon, thinking that some of them are pretty easy to start, the others are maybe not so easy, but would be pretty cool to have them. And also you can, of course, choose another ones, or create your own issues, and do whatever you like. Okay, so let's start the training. Vue Storefront. If you haven't seen it in action, I would strongly recommend to go to our demo.storefrontcloud.io. The link is on GitHub repository as well. So you can just open it on your device, your computer is open, no password required, anything like that, so we can test how it works. Vue Storefront is progressive web app for e-commerce, so it's a web application that more or less works the same way as native apps. So you can install it on your home screen on your device, you can use it in the offline mode. The pretty cool thing is that it works in headless architecture. So headless architecture means that you have front end separated from the backend, communicated with the backend just through the API. And this is exactly how our architecture looks like. So here I'm sharing the architecture diagram. You can also find it on GitHub. I will start explaining it from the right side. So here is the Vue Storefront application. This is exactly that repository, Vue Storefront. So this is Vue.js JavaScript app that works in the user browser, displays the UI, offers all the features like product filtering, product page, shopping cart, all the e-commerce features are included. The cool thing is that it works more like the native application, meaning that it contains all the logic in JavaScript. It's not like theme for some e-commerce platform, it's just application. And it's getting all the information required from the Vue Storefront API. This is a separate project, so it's Vue Storefront API. You can find it on the GitHub as well. And this is the API layer. Some of the tasks from today's hackathon are related to Vue Storefront API as well. For example, there is an idea to rewrite Vue Storefront API in PHP, which is pretty interesting mostly for the guys who used to work with Magento backend. Because Vue Storefront API natively is written in Node.js, so this is another JS application, and the role of it is to get all the required data from e-commerce backend. The standard integration is Magento 2, but it works also with Pimcore, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, and potentially other platforms as well. So Vue Storefront API is doing kind of data normalization. For example, Vue Storefront sends a request like add to cart to synchronize the client side cart with the server side cart, and Vue Storefront API translates this call, this cart add, to some Magento, WooCommerce, or another platform-specific API calls to just synchronize this shopping cart. This is just one example. Of course, we use it for other requests like user registration, user authorization as well. The third part of this puzzle is the Elasticsearch data store. We have Elasticsearch index for storing all static information required for product catalog to display. So products, categories, attributes, tax rules, some other stuff is pushed into Elasticsearch. The synchronization is done by a tool called Mage to Vue Storefront. This is another repository on GitHub, Mage to Vue Storefront. So we can also take a look how it looks like. And then the role of this app is to synchronize Magento or any other platform data with Elasticsearch. So this is our architecture, more or less. I will say something on our code structure, and then I will let Filip to go through the details how to create modules and so on. So basically, when you take a look at our Vue Storefront repository, you see that we have two key folders that allows you to understand the code structure. First is the core. We name it as we name those. First is core, the second is SRC, and we name those folders as a user namespace, user space, which is SRC. So users are putting their own code, like themes, modules, some other stuff here in SRC, creating e-commerce implementation or creating some additional features as well. And the core is for developing the Vue Storefront, the framework itself. On today's hackathon, you probably will also contribute to the core as well, because a lot of tasks are related to the Vue Storefront core. But our intention was to create Vue Storefront as a kind of framework, which means that you can customize it, you can use some features, you can use some components building your own e-commerce website, but still you are able to update the framework itself. So this is the reason why it's separated. In some next releases, we plan to have it even more separated, like using Vue Storefront as an NPM module solely. Nowadays, it's like you are probably cloning this repository and just playing with SRC folder with your modification. Okay, so just take a look at the structure of the core, because it shows how the architecture was designed. So the first thing is the modules directory. Our architecture of Vue Storefront is fully modular. So when you are adding some new features, you probably like to add new module for that. So all the core features are here in core modules, and the user features are in SRC modules as well. It's pretty much the same structure. The modules can be installed as NPM packages, so they can be developed in different repositories. But Vue Storefront offers pretty useful dev mode, which uses node-mon to reload the code whenever it's changed. So when you use the SRC modules or modifying the core modules, you will get your changes applied immediately. So this is pretty useful way of working with Vue Storefront. So each module has pretty same structure. So maybe let's take a look at the card. So first of all, there is a components folder where you have Vue.js components. The important part is that in the core, basically the components are just the JS objects. So we are not using any UI here, we are not having any markup here. And then when you are creating your own theme for Vue Storefront, so for example your own e-commerce look and feel is being implemented, you are having this theme, and in the theme you also have components, but here in the theme you're doing something which is pretty cool and pretty crucial to understand the Vue Storefront. So you are, first of all, you are creating the component. The naming is up to you. Like most of the guys are basing on the default theme, so the structure is pretty much the same as the default, but it's not obligatory to have this structure. But for example, you're creating this microcard view, and here you are importing the microcard component from the core, and just using the mixing feature of Vue.js, which gives you kind of inheritance. So this microcard component has all the methods that this one in the core has, plus some others, plus the UI. So this is that was our approach. Like in the core, you are having just things that are reusable, and then in the themes or SRC modules, you can have things related to the current project you are working on. Okay, so going back to the core and to the module structure, maybe I will open another one. So the components are here. Moreover, you have the store, which is probably the most important part of Vue Storefront core, because it's the implementation of Vuex. So Vuex is kind of Redux implementation, but for Vue.js. So it's for managing the application state. And our assumption was that we put all the application logic here in the Vuex actions divided into modules. So for example, you have store name category, and in the category you have action called list, and category list lists all the categories that we have in Elasticsearch. So Vuex store in Vue Storefront is for managing data, for communicating with the eCommerce backend, more or less. Okay, so the stores are also here, and then you have some other maybe not less important, but additional things in the module. So for example, you have TypeScript types. The TypeScript is not obligatory, especially for modules and for themes, but we are using it in the core to make things easier for developers, because using TypeScript we can have the IntelliSense in editors, and it's much easier to get into the project using TypeScript types. Okay, I think that from the architecture point of view, more or less, this is the most important part. So maybe I will pass the voice to Filip.
Okay. Just in case if there are any questions, please post them on Slack, on Hackathon channel, in here. By the way, do you hear us well? Can someone post? Okay, I guess. So this was the basic, the architecture. Before I will go a little bit deeper into the front-end architecture, there is one thing I want you to see. This is the contributing guide. So you will be picking issues from here today, probably with level VS Hackathon, or if you will encounter some bugs or want to add another third-party integration, you can write the issues by your own. And when you work with Vue Storefront, first check out from the develop branch, because this is a working branch. It might be not stable, because the stable branch is master always. But this is the branch that we are working currently on with the latest features, and the one that will be eventually merged into the master at the end of the month. So first start from the develop branch, then create a pull request. So ideally you should name it based on the feature you're making, bugs you're making. Also please use pull request template. So whatever. Okay, isn't that easy? Basically, you will see a template of fields. And now I will go a little bit deeper into the architecture. So we will start with the core again, and I will briefly explain how it works. So first of all, we have a config folder. We will have a default JSON file, which is basically a config for Vue Storefront, where you can specify the paths for backend servers and many things like multi-store, which entities should go from the backend in the product list or category list, etc. But you shouldn't touch the default JSON, because for a working project, you should create a local JSON, which will be merged to this default one. So the easiest way is to just copy this one into the local JSON and change the change the fields that you want to change, or you can just create your own JSON only with fields that you wanna override. So they will be overwritten with the default JSON, and then you can start working. Also, you can just type your installer, which will do everything for you. So it will create a local JSON, install all the dependencies, etc. So the second thing is the core. As Peter explained, this part is upgradable, so you shouldn't touch it if you're working with your own implementation. Today you can touch it because we'll be contributing to it. And in here we have a build, which is basically a Webpack build, compatibility folder that you shouldn't also touch, and you just should pretend that it's not existing because it's for backward compatibility. We have filters, which are basically Vue.js filters, so the filters are taking the strings and modify them in some way, like if you have mustache interpolation and you have some string, you will use a pipe operator and the name of the filter, like date, it will change the string in some way. You also have helpers, which are helper functions. The one that might be important for you is the init cache storage function, which is creating a local storage offline cache with a given name. So we have get and set functions in here. So let's say we want to create a new cache storage. So we need to type new cache, init cache storage, and give it a name. And once we have it, we can use this new cache, get item, new cache, set item, based on strings. So get item name, set item name, value. And you will see this in some modules, which I will show you later. Okay, let's do it. So here we have our internal synchronization plugin, IA18. Basically, what this plugin is doing, it's looking for things like this. So if you will encounter something like this, it means that this one is translatable. So the string in here is basically a key. And this key will be used for translations. So we have a CSV file in team, which is here. We have team's default resource IA18, and here we have CSV files with translations. So these are the keys that are used for translation. Next one. We have a lib, which is basically a set of libraries in Vue Storefront. The one that might be important for you is the task lib. You will see in our Vuex stores that we don't have fetch as it is. We mostly have execute functions or sync functions. Like here. So these are basically an interceptors for request. Execute is a direct interceptor, so the request is directly executed. There's also a sync interceptor, which is basically queuing the request until the user is online. So if we are offline and we want some post request to be done after the user comes back online, then we should use a sync task. Next. Also, if we want to log something, we should use a logger, Vue Storefront logger. You will see some examples of this. If you will point at this, you will also see how to use it. So Vue Storefront logger is for logging stuff. It will not log anything in the production. Mixins are as simple as Vue.js mixins. Pages are one of the most important entities in here, because these are the Vue Storefront pages. So we have category page, checkout page, compare, home, etc. And all of them are just a business logic in here, and they are merged in the theme. So if you go to the theme, to pages, and for example, to category page, you will see that we are importing the category page from here with its logic and injecting it as a mixin in here. So now we can benefit from all these features in here, in the theme. So this part will be upgradable, and in our theme we can make use of all these properties. And it works the same with components. So as Peter showed, you have a components that are basically injecting only the core features and having their markup and CSS. We also have a script which is for server-side scripts. Service worker. Service worker is a client-side proxy which works outside of the website in the browser. If you don't know what the service worker is, it's not in the scope of this training, so just Google it. This is the instance of Vue Storefront store. We are slowly moving some parts from this instance outside to the core. So for example, there are issues for the sleep folder and the types folder to be pulled out in here. And these three files are crucial. So app.ts is basically an entry file that is used. This is the entry file for the client side, this is the entry file for the server side, and both of them are using app.ts, the create app function. So if you need to start somewhere, start here and here. Okay, so this is about the core. Let's go to the modules. So as Peter shown, Vue Storefront is divided into modules. So you can think about Vue Storefront as three entities. There is a core, there are themes, and there are modules. So the core is basically a glue for everything. The modules are actual e-commerce features, and the themes are the actual shops. So there is a core, and we are connecting themes and modules to the core. So here we have e-commerce features that are out of the box with the core and are upgradable. Like, let's say, let's take a look at cart module. So as you have seen, we have components, we have hooks, which are basically the hooks that are invoked before and after registration of the module. You have access to view, config, our Vuex store properties in here. We also have a Vuex stores. We also have a place for tests and types, and all of this is exported in here as a Vue Storefront module. So all these modules are registered in here. So if you will src modules index.ts, if you will take a look, here we have all the Vue Storefront modules imported and then exported in here. And everything that is exported in here will be registered in the core. Why we are doing this? Because while you have this import and this export, in between you can modify these modules. You can modify any part of them. If you will take a look at our docs, docs.vuestorefront.io, and you will go to the modules, introduction, you have extending and overriding Vue Storefront modules part, which is telling us that if we are importing some module and then exporting it later, in the meantime we can extend it with another module. So how it works, basically we're taking another module and merging it into the currently existing module. So let's say we have a cart module, and cart module have Vuex action called load. So by doing this, we are creating new module with the same key. This is very important. The module needs to have the same key, and we are giving it only a load Vuex action, and after registration hook. So then we're using the extend module function to extend this cart module. We're providing the module to this function. This function takes the key and merges this module with the module with the same key. So in this case, it's a cart module. and overrides all the leaves. So it's a deep merge in Lodash, so after registration hook will be overwritten, load action will be overwritten, and in this way you can override any part of Vue Storefront module, just by providing another module that will be merged with this one. And later we are just registering the cart module like before, but now it's extended. So if you want to create new module, you should go to the team, not to the team, you should go to the SRC modules, and we have a module templating here, which basically contains everything that the module could have. So the easiest way is to copy it, change the key, delete what you don't need, and importing here. So it's basically this. There are also some other extension points, so if you want to add some express routes, for example, for robots or something like this, we have a SRC server folder, and if we want to have a route like /robots.txt, we are creating new file, we are specifying the path for this, we are specifying the content and height. Take a look here. We have this content in here. So in this way we can create a custom express route. We can also hook into a webpack. So in every team we have a webpack config.js file, which allows us to hook into a webpack config, this one. And in teams, the most important part is we have index.js, which is an entry point for every team. So here we have team entry, which is the root component, and init team function. Inside this init team function, we have access to the app, which is basically an actual Vue.js instance, router store, Vue Storefront config from here, and SSR context. And in here you can do some stuff before the instantiation of the team. For example, in here we can set up routes for multi-store and then add these routes. Also, one important thing is the head.js file, which is basically used for head content for the SEO. And basically that's all needed for you to work with Vue Storefront. Also, if you want to write some tests, please, some unit tests, you need to specify the path for them here. So if these are the tests from some of the modules, just give a path to the module. If you are writing some custom team tests and place them, for example, in here or in the team, also add this path, and then everything will be good. Okay. I guess we can start. We will still be in the Slack all the time. So if you have any questions, just ask on the Slack, or if you are here or not remotely, just ask me in here. And good luck. Thank you.